Hi guys! My name is Jenny. I'm 17. When I discovered the world of anime, it felt like home to me. But unfortunately, there are idiots everywhere. 2 years ago, I had a boyfriend from school, Zach. He was very handsome and he took me for granted. While I tried my best to impress him, sometimes he would ignore me for days and then tell me that I was overreacting. One night we went to a party. He was playing video games with some other guys. After he lost, I sat on the couch near him and tried to hug him. But Zach pushed me away in front of all of our friends and yelled at me, saying that I should lose weight and get plastic surgery before hugging him. No one stood up for me. I left the party in tears and stopped hanging out with that whole group. After that night, I felt very ashamed and depressed. So I decided to lie low at home and wait. To kill my boredom, I started watching an old anime series, D. Gray Man, and I fell in love with the main character, Alan Walker, right away! This guy had all the qualities that I wanted to see in my physical boyfriend. Every time I looked at his picture, I felt the power to move on. So that series became my sanctuary from humiliation and disappointment. I rewatched all of the episodes like a million times. My lifestyle changed. During classes, I couldn't wait to get back home to spend my time by the screen with my real friends. I started following manga and anime fan clubs and communities, and soon I turned into an expert in this field. Day by day, my collection of posters, clothes, stuffed animals, and other cosplay items increased. I even started attending drawing classes because I wanted to be able to visually represent my ideas and dedicate my art to my beloved Alan. My sketches looked pretty ugly, to be honest with you, but I tried my best. My friends at school told me that I had changed, but they seemed boring to me, and I was focusing more on my new hobby. One day, I went into the local anime shop. I had a brief chat with the seller, Nick. His colleague quit, and he urgently needed a cashier. So he offered me mochi with strawberries and a part-time job. I said yes, of course I did. I was sure that it was my destiny to work at this place. Nick and I talked a lot and became close friends quickly. He also had virtual girlfriends among anime and manga characters. Nick was handsome, thin, and gloomy, and I liked him. I had finally met a guy who shared my interests. One Friday night, we didn't have many customers. Nick and I were fooling around and trying on various costumes. I could not resist and kissed him. Nick didn't seem to mind either. Moreover, he asked me, "What took you so long?" Then he invited me over to his parents' house. His room was heavily decorated with his girlfriends. I didn't want to spoil the moment, so I said nothing about it. We watched some series together, and it felt like home. After that kiss and that night, we began hanging out as a couple. Nick took me to a party and introduced me to his friends. Girls from his group of friends were so slim and beautiful. One of them, she called herself Azumi, was wearing cute ears and colorful makeup. She took me aside and asked me why my outfit was so boring. She offered to help me with my makeup and I agreed. I didn't want to feel ugly and embarrassed among all these well-groomed girls anymore. The next day, Azumi invited me to her place. I told her that I wanted to look like Nick's favorite characters. Azumi gave me an endless list of prohibited foods because I needed to lose weight to fit into the anime beauty standard. Then we dyed my natural brown hair pink. She helped me with makeup and contact lenses, and I tried on several outfits. I felt pretty and confident for the first time in my life. Later that night, I hurried up to see Nick and surprise him. He didn't expect me to arrive so early, and his behavior seemed a little strange. Nick went to the bathroom, and I clicked on his browser to turn on some music. But I noticed a tab with adult anime. Of course, I had suspicions that he was doing it, but I wasn't ready to discuss that at all. So I pretended that I'd never touched his laptop. Nick returned to the room and said he loved my style. He asked me to dress that way every day because he wanted to be proud of his girlfriend. Following his instructions, the next day I spent my entire savings on cute anime outfits, accessories, and makeup. 4 months later, my weight dropped to 130 pounds from 165. Nick tried to support me during that journey. He told me that I was getting more beautiful day by day. And yeah, my body looked thinner, but I felt exhausted. My eyes hurt from my contact lenses, and I got acne breakouts all over my face because of the heavy makeup I was wearing every day. My skin and body needed a rest. So I made the decision to stop using makeup for a while. I needed to cure my skin as soon as possible, because we had an upcoming event that month, a large cosplay festival, and I needed to look gorgeous. Our boss promised Nick and I good money for presenting his store at that event. One day, Nick invited me to our favorite burger place, and I decided to meet him in my natural look, without any makeup or kawaii costume. He was not yet familiar with my no makeup marathon, and I felt very vulnerable. And guess what? That jerk told me that he had lost his appetite because of the way I looked. He asked me not to disgrace him anymore and to go tidy up. That was it. I'd had enough. I began yelling, saying that he was dating a real girl, flesh and blood. I didn't sign any obligation that I had to look like an adult anime character 24 hours a day. The whole restaurant was staring at us as we argued. Nick became embarrassed and tried to shut me up, but I was furious. I reminded him that he didn't have any magic powers like Alan, but I still loved him. After that fight, we decided to take a break. I cried all the way home, but at home, it got even worse. My parents had a sneaky friend named Sarah, and she had recently asked my father about my new strange style. My father finally broke away from his work and remembered that he had a child. While I was out, he broke into my room and searched through my entire closet. He didn't know anything about that subculture and came to the conclusion that his daughter was doing something weird and suspicious. I tried to show him the series and my sketches and explain that it was a form of art, but that genius, who had worked as an accountant at a power plant all his life, refused to listen. He just grounded me and tried to force me to quit my job. And on top of that, he tried to force me to dye my hair back to brown. But I lied and said that it was impossible, and he believed me. As you might have guessed, he's not very smart. Fortunately, the fact that my father is not very smart helped me sneak into the festival. I lied to my parents and told them that my school teacher selected me to attend a scientific conference in another city with a group of other nerds. Vanity and pride for their daughter blinded my folks, and I was free to go. I promised Nick to put away my inner drama queen for a while and stay professional. We put on our costumes and stood around our small pavilion. Nick left me alone to get some coffee. I continued chanting my speech, when suddenly I felt dizzy and I began to fall. A tall, muscular guy from the crowd caught me, like a ninja. The ninja brought me to the medical room in his arms, and I learned that his name was Alan. His real name! He was a young motion designer from Boston, and he smelled so good. The doctor told me that I was dehydrated and that I needed to take off my tight costume and makeup immediately. As usual, Nick had prepared an extra small dress for me while my actual size was a medium. Alan was kind enough to offer me his extra t-shirt and shorts from his travel backpack. When I changed and washed my face, I felt so much better. Alan told me that I was beautiful exactly as I was. I was so touched. I couldn't help myself, so I just hugged him silently and began to cry. Alan got me water and snacks, and I told him everything about my stupid boyfriends and their beauty standards. I will remember his reaction for the rest of my life. He said, "You just haven't met real friends yet." I felt like heaven had sent me the perfect guy. I had a medical excuse to drop my job, and so we explored the exhibition together. It turned out that Alan had traveled to Japan twice. He knew everything about the dark side of the anime industry. He gave me good advice in terms of my future career because I wanted to become an animation cartoon artist. He kissed my cheek before leaving and promised to check up on me tomorrow. I could not believe how happy I was. On the second day of the festival, as Alan walked around nearby, Nick was very jealous, and he looked like a sad little puppy in contrast with Alan. He couldn't even say a word. After the festival, I continued my relationship with Alan online. Meanwhile, with great dedication, Nick drew a nasty 5-page comic book about me and Alan, trying to convince me that Alan was a liar and kidnapper. Azumi told me that he distributed that book among all his friends. I didn't want to see Nick anymore. So I quit my job. A week later, Nick called me, begging me to come over immediately. I got really freaked out and hurried over to his house. When I entered his room, I couldn't recognize it. It was almost empty. No posters, no toys on the shelves, no dakimakura pillows with prints of maids and nurses. Only one pillow, with my picture printed on it. Yikes! Nick hugged me and said he was ready to get rid of his anime obsessions for me. He loved me and wanted me back. And I got very angry. I mean, what prevented him from treating me with love before? At that moment, I realized that I was done with Nick. So I just said goodbye and left. I had more important things to do. Alan had encouraged me to apply to a college in Boston. And today, I am preparing myself to follow his advice and also save money for my future trip to Japan. Nothing is holding me back here anyway.